You know what's really funny is a lot of people who are successful at YouTube actually has home studios. I have my very messy gear room in my basement. Whatever, this is gonna work. I tried to make it look cool, like I staged my ice axe and helmet. I'm like, yeah, very messy. So my gear's missing. But anyways, today's a little bit different. It's not a hiking video. It's a video I've been meaning to make for a very long time. Kind of discussing what it means to adventure and do all this crazy stuff while having MS or multiple sclerosis. So yes, I do have MS. I was officially diagnosed November 4th, 2024. So last winter, after a 3-year journey. I always like to preface that. I initially had, I guess you'd say, my first clinically isolated syndrome. You can't really call it a relapse. The initial presenting things after a very ill-fated climbing trip to Mount Adams, which is Washington's second highest mountain and one of the volcanoes there, in July 2022. My optometrist knew what she was looking at the entire time. No other healthcare provider seemed to know that, and I was misdiagnosed. A lot of the symptoms I was having I passed off as, that's what you do when you're a competitive cyclist, or you just feel like crap, or you do this weird stuff. So I had another 2 years without anything major, and funny enough, it was after I summited Mount Adams successfully in July 2024. I had what would be my first relapse. It was discovered I was mountain biking, and a friend pointed out, for someone who used to have a pro license, you can't keep a bike on a trail. And then symptoms kind of snowballed from there. My optometrist is like, why won't anyone listen to me? I had a different primary health care provider at that point who definitely took me seriously. I got referred to neurology in Colorado to a specialist, and yeah, it was all very textbook. But anyways, yes, I do have multiple sclerosis, the relapse and remitting kind, and last fall and last winter, it was an incredible hot mess. I had severe heat intolerance, to the point I couldn't wash dishes in my house, let alone I could no longer ride a bicycle, including on a trainer. Trainer could get by with an ice vest, but I usually was sick for about a week afterwards. Lots of fatigue, balance issues, a lot of issues. I started my DMT, or my disease modifying therapy, rather quickly, beginning of January. I will say, side note, if you have MS or probably any other chronic medical condition, being your own advocate is the best thing you can do. You will make doctors, nurses, probably some pharmacists, hospitals, infusion centers, insurance companies annoyed at you. But do it because you need to get stuff done quickly. And if you just sit aside and not kind of advocate for yourself, you could have a very different disease course. That's my side soapbox. So I was able to start on my DMT rather quickly, and my life instantly 180'd, where I am 99% normal on any given day. I just had a really crazy week with work. It was very exhausting. It's probably the most tired I have felt in a very long time. That did involve scaling a crazy mountain with no sleep. And I would forget words. Words is a big thing. It's almost like English becomes my second language, and I can't think of phrases, and some exhaustion. I just can't pronounce stuff. That's normal. But I was able, after a good night's sleep, I'm fine. So when it comes to adventuring, a lot of people have what does this mean? I hike, I mountaineer, I took up indoor climbing. I've only gone a few times, but I have done that. I am back to mountain biking, road cycling, gravel cycling, all the things with bicycles. I just bought a stand-up paddleboard. Life is proceeding as normal. Right now, and I've really taken the opinion of I'm going to do what I can while I can do it. I think that's the thing with MS, is you never know what's coming. If you get sick, that can definitely, DMTs can stop working. Who knows? My MRIs do show that I'm stable, no new lesions. Lesions I do have, which is less than 10 burden in my brain, and then ones in my cervical and thoracic spine are stable. So I'm just kind of in that weird period, which those with MS can probably know how I feel, where you kind of, you know, you don't belong to the fully healthy world. You might belong to the really disabled MS world, and you just kind of exist and do awesome things. That probably didn't make sense, but whatever. I'm sitting in my gear room in my basement talking into a camera. This is just weird anyways, but so for the most part, like I said, my adventuring is continuing. I've always been someone that has prioritized sleep, so I know that's just very important to do. And just learning the limits of my body, which is something I think as I get older, you know, I can't recover as much as I did when I was 30, now that I am 41. I haven't really made any huge changes, but there's a few things I want to discuss. So as of right now, my heat tolerance is gone. Heat intolerance. I don't like hot temperatures. So like today was 95. I didn't go outside, but I don't have to deal with the vertigo, the very bad like gait and balance problems, and all the things I dealt with last fall when I had an active lesion. That being said, I do have an ice vest I keep in the freezer. It's like this big, it looks like a bulky weight vest. When I'd wear it to yoga, people thought I was just being extra and training with weight, but it was the ice cube. I do have that available if needed. It's just sat in there like the last 6 months. I have actually my insurance company. I won some weird wellness thing at work. And so I do have some of these like cooling towels and different products. I don't know. This is one like my parents had and gave me, which I was really excited to get a box with this in it. And I think you just get it wet and then it's like evaporative cooling. I haven't had to use it, but I do have some of these. I'll probably throw at least this one in my car for summer adventures if I needed cooling. Another thing I've done, which I don't have my trail running shoes in my house, they're in my car. But for a while there, I had this crazy idea that I had to do everything wearing mountaineering boots. So like these, which this is a semi, like, well, 3/4 shank mountaineering boot. I swear it weighs like 2 pounds. Takes like a hybrid crampon, like it is a heavy boot. I was wearing this in the middle of summer. I was wearing boots like this on every hike. And then I bought a little lightweight pair, a lighter weight La Sportiva pair that I would backpack in. This is what I was wearing hiking. So when I do get fatigued, I get the slightest bit of foot drop. I'm not even sure if it's technically foot drop, but I will start tripping. And so it kind of led to like I stumble and I fall on hikes and your trail name Stumbles, which I've always been clumsy my whole life, regardless of MS. Dude, when you're wearing a 2-pound boot on your foot, no crap. Like this is heavy to lift. So I did transition to doing all my hiking and backpacking in trail running shoes, which are much, much lighter. Of course, these boots still have a purpose in winter. It's fine. I'm just in my basement. I have all my, I have all my I love mountaineering boots. I think they're incredibly comfy. Of course, I wear them in the winter. I actually just wore these this past weekend because I was doing a couloir climb, so I had to wear crampons. So these still have their place, but it's not on regular hikes and backpacking. So I've transitioned to trail running shoes, which are much lighter, and I notice I just feel like I'm less fatigued, and I don't stumble and trip as much. I still do. Like I said, it could be my baseline clumsiness. It could be an MS thing. Who knows? Sometimes people want to start blaming everything on MS, and I think there is still just an aspect of me that's very clumsy because I have long legs and I'm tall and I've just been always very awkward. But that is a big change I've made. I've always was worried. It's like, no, I need that hard sole. I can't backpack and stuff. So I have a couple different varieties of trail runners, all ultras. I have the Lone Peaks and I have the Olympus. The Olympus I tend to wear more on hikes and probably backpacking because they're the bigger, squishier ones than the Lone Peaks. I have hiked in my Lone Peaks and I trail run in them. So that is one big change I have made, is lightening up my footwear. I think it goes back to my car racing days or even cycling days, where if you get lighter wheels, you have less rotational weight. So I'm like, yeah, that works for my shoes. Other than that, I mean, I invest in a lot of ultralight or lightweight backpacking gear. I'm using MS as an excuse and reason why I could spend a lot of money on this stuff. But, I probably needed to anyways. The days of 45-pound packs for backpacking I was over it. But once again, if you lightweight stuff, I have a lot of backpacking plans this year. I'm doing multiple nights in Yellowstone. I'm doing stuff in the Wind River Range here in Wyoming. I'm doing stuff on the Continental Divide Trail or CDT this year. Doing some like base camp to mountain summits. So all that weight adds up, and it was fine when I casually backpacked, but now I'm trying to go a lot lighter. So I did upgrade. I've always had a hyperlight pack for over a year now. This is I use it backpacking and hiking because I feel like you can day pack it, which is really heavy right now, and I realize because my mountaineering stuff is still thrown in it, but I love it. I find them very comfy. You just have to size hyperlight packs very well. I did upgrade my tent, so I saved several pounds. Okay, well overall I have taken 7 pounds off my base weight for backpacking by upgrading my tent, sleeping quilt, sleeping pad, and like my stove. So I've cut a lot of weight. The tent was a big one. I went from a 1-person REI backpacking tent to a Durston 2-person tent that's so nylon, it's not even the Dyneema, and still lost several pounds. I do like having a 2-person tent. I like being able to flail around. I would not like particularly having a second person in that tent. That is very close to our comfort. I have done it on mountains, not with the Durston, but with other tents. But I like to have a big castle when I'm backpacking. My sleeping bag, I actually had a custom underground quilts sleeping quilt made. I did go with a 10 degree because I sleep incredibly cold, and you're not convincing me I could handle a 20-degree bag because I was using a 15-degree bag. 15 degree rated for comfort in the middle of summer, like the heat dome last year in Washington State. I was sleeping in that 15-degree bag in a rooftop tent. So I just a very cold sleeper. So I got the 10-degree quilt. I did get the wide version. I'm a side sleeper. I kind of do that like figure 4 thing. I can't lay in a mummy bag. I hate mummy bags. So I think it's still just under 2 pounds, but still several pounds lighter than the sleeping bag I was using. I did get the Thermarest sleeping pad that like everyone uses in the through hiking world. And then I always had a Jetboil, which I love. I will still use car camping and probably definitely on more casual backpacking trips with friends. But I did get an MSR pocket rocket stove and a titanium cook pot. And I even got myself a titanium fork, or not even fork, spork, just to cut some weight. And you know, I invested in lots of, like hyperlight, you know, Dyneema pods. I do like my Dyneema stuff. It's so funny, and the pods fit my pack. So lots of little like Dyneema stuff sacks all now, because you know, ounces become things. Like I always use like this big Kula cloth pocket for my toiletry bag, which I still might because I like it and it's cute. I did get like Dyneema bags. So yeah. Most places I backpack do require a bear canister or some sort of appropriate food storage, because it's either grizzly country or black bears like Rocky Mountain National Park. You have to have a bear can. So that's already an automatic 2.5 pounds of weight in my pack. So, you know, lightening everything else. So like I said, 7 pounds off base weight, and I've definitely, through watching through hikers on YouTube and just research, you know, kind of overcoming. I can wear the same clothes for 4 days straight. It is fine. I also bought an ultralight down jacket from Mountain Hardwear. I have gotten, I think it's the Mountain Hardwear like air mesh fleeces that are super lightweight. I got a lighter weight rain jacket because I had a heavier like mountaineering hard shell jacket. So I got a ultralight, well, I guess not ultralight, lightweight jacket. So haven't become an ultralight backpacker by any means. There's still a lot of comfort items and choices that I made that aren't very ultralight, but lightweight. Because I think one of it is I will always have to have an aspect of comfort to ensure I'm getting that rest and I'm comfortable. Hey, those people that want to sleep on half of a Z-Lite foam pad cut down, props to them. They're probably younger or crazier than me. I have the extra wide, extra long Thermarest because I want that bit of comfort in my 2-person tent and while I'm wrapped up in my 10-degree quilt. So yeah, I used MS as a little bit of an excuse, you know, just to lighten my pack, therefore hopefully reducing fatigue and all of that, but it's also just really fun to have lighter weight stuff. Trying to think, I have like boxes of like REI stuff I haven't even cleared out, which most of it's like food, but then I'm like, oh, I forgot I bought a Sawyer squeeze. Which is funny because coming home on that work trip I bought a smart water bottle at the gas station because I hadn't filled my water, and I was like, oh, it'll fit my Sawyer squeeze. So I'd briefly forgotten, but you know, this is a little bit lighter than the platypus filter I have. I will probably use it more on my solo trips, but it is funny, I should probably test run this before my first trip soon. But yeah, so I guess this is the very long, boring part of life. Isn't changing much for me at the moment. I am still kind of doing what I want to do. Making plans, doing crazy backpacking trips. Like I feel like the backpacking just spiraled this year. I am planning a shorter through hike next year, although I've learned things can really change. Like I was supposed to do a whole different trip this summer and that kind of went out the window for other reasons not involving MS. But I am playing around with doing that through hike next year if nothing else super exciting comes up. But I think overall, my overall philosophy is I'm going to do what I can do while I can still do it. And I've kind of always had that opinion in the past few years, and like MS has really taught me that. Like, definitely enjoy my health and my mobility and how I am now while it's there, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. But I don't think that's just for people with MS. It doesn't really matter. Any or every single person's life can change in an hour. It can change tomorrow. So I kind of believe like everyone should be just living life. I've never been that type that's like, oh, I'm just gonna wait till I'm 70 and retired to go travel the world. I want to do it now while I can like hike and I'm not stumbling off a tour bus looking at Old Faithful from the parking lot. I want to do the big crazy stuff now while I'm still fairly young and mobile and have the physical fitness and means to do it. You know, money can always come back. I can't take my money with me. I know that's not everyone's philosophies, which that's great, but that's mine, and I'm not about to change that. And yeah, you know, like I said, I think it doesn't really matter, and I've learned some lessons over the last year and a half of people I've lost in life and stuff, and it's just like, you gotta live life to the fullest while you can. So like I said, I've always felt that way. MS has maybe made it a little more impactful for me, but I think that's advice like every single person can take, just because, yeah, someone can just wake up the next day and have their life just completely changed. Like, I always joke about the bingo card of my life. There's a lot of things I've done that would have never been on there. Like, if you asked me at 18 or even 20, like, would you ever been a competitive cyclist? I'm like, hell no. Would you ever have MS? Like, that would have never, ever, ever been something I would have thought would happen. So yeah. Long video just to say life goes on. I'm still going to adventure as much as I can. I'm kind of happy because I've picked up new things in the last 6 months I'd never done, like indoor rock climbing, or I guess indoor gym climbing. It's not really rocks. Picked that up, and like I said, stand-up paddleboarding, which even 3 weeks ago, if you asked, I would have said I would have never gotten on one of those in my life. And then I did, and now I bought one. And like, I'm buying permits to do it in Grand Teton Park. Like, maybe the lesions are making me a little crazy. I have an immense fear of water, but yeah, I'm trying new things and just continuing on. I do want to wrap up with every single person with MS is completely different. The brain, the central nervous system it's all luck of the draw of where your lesions are, and I am fully aware that I am in a much better position than a lot of people with MS are. Just like there are people that are in a better position than I am. So not everyone you meet with MS can possibly go out and do this stuff. And I'm not meaning to brag by saying I can. I just know when I was being diagnosed, one thing I struggled with is there is the negative side of it, especially being as old as I am. You grew up with the stories of Annette Funicello, or just seeing that MS really up until a decade ago was a very disabling disease. The medications didn't even come onto the market until the early 1990s. They weren't high efficacy, and we've only really seen since maybe 2017 onward those high efficacy like monoclonal antibody therapies like Ocrevus. I don't know why I'm trying to say the generic name. Ocrevus, Kesimpta, Briumvi, all those start coming on the market. And so it is a very different disease in this day and time than it was 15, 20 years ago, if not more. And so when I got diagnosed, or when it first started getting thrown around, I was scared because I was like, I'm going to be in a wheelchair, I'm going to be severely disabled, all this stuff, because that was the disease, where they have managed to move MS and a big component of it to just being a chronic condition that if you start your DMT, you are exercising, you're healthy, it can just be something you live with and maybe gives you some quirks. But one thing I struggle with is I saw the negative side of like, here's the walkers you can buy, here's your mobility scooters, and I'm freaking out because I wasn't able to mountain bike at that time and it was scary. Thankfully, I did have a handful of contacts and people in my life that I saw were living very successfully with it, like racing, pro level cycling still. And I want to be, if anything, like that person. Like if I can help someone that is in my situation and be like, look, it might suck when you're relapsing, or there might be things, but there's ways to move through it and still continue living a very active, adventurous life. If that just reaches it, because I wish I had more of that when I was going through all of this for the past 3 years, because a lot of the stuff is just that very focused on the more severe disabled MS patients. So I was just like, it would have been more to hear those stories of like, I still just do everything I did. So that is, I guess, why I'm sharing this, is if that reaches the one person that is helpful for them to hear and see, that's good. Like I said, I am not trying to brag of like, look how healthy I am and I have MS, because like I said, it could change. You never know what could happen, and I am still very early on, but I don't know if I even said that like how I wanted to say it. I've done a lot of talking this week. I had to present like 6 hours at a conference for work, and completely different subject. So yeah, I don't know if I actually summarized my thoughts very well, but yeah, I just wanted to make a video. I've been meaning to make it for like months now of like, what does that mean to adventure with MS? What does that mean? Like, are we still going to see the adventuringheidi.com, like my blog, which is always still my major thing, is my blog. I prefer writing over YouTubing. Are we still going to see the occasional wacky YouTube video? And yes, it will, as long as I can. I'll still be blogging, and like I said, I have crazy stuff planned, and even some bigger plans. Like I said, there's all these plans and things to do, and only so much time and money, and probably the ability of how many weeks I can take off of work at a time. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. One day I might make more of an in-depth video about my whole like diagnosis journey, because there was like a lot of crazy aspects of it. I keep joking, Mount Adams gave me MS. It's not really true, but it is kind of funny that that mountain played in both times. But yeah, one day maybe I'll do a video that's more of my actual diagnosis story. This is more of my, I'm adventuring, and I just wanted to toss my mountaineering boots around in my basement apparently. But yeah, until next time, I am adventuring here later in summer. I probably will try to make videos a little bit along with blogs, so those will be coming. But until next time, bye.